More chips don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Ross and Cardiff! Folks, good wake your kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
And here's Mendy! There's that race-class roll again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of those recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. Daz is away this week, having a well-earned rest, but he will be videoing it a bit later. But in a week when a Fabergé pendant has been recovered after police spent 6 days closely monitoring the man accused of swallowing it. The limited edition jewellery was inspired by the 1983 film Octopussy, where a smuggling operation involves a fake Fabergé egg. Detectives say the pendant exited the subject's gastrointestinal tract, can't say that, naturally without medical intervention. After all, diamonds are forever. A photo has been released showing the collector's item reunited with the police, and a gloved hand can be seen around the pendant with its long gold chain. I bet it's a gloved hand as well. The price tag still showing on it was on for sale for £14,250 and it remained intact even after it passed through the guy. According to a statement, the 32-year-old was arrested at Partridge Jewellers in Auckland on the 20th of November and had been in police custody ever since. Officers were stationed around the clock, waiting for the evidence to re-emerge. The Fabergé egg, one of only 50 ever made, was crafted from gold, painted with a green enamel and encrusted with 183 diamonds and 2 sapphires. It opens to reveal an 18-carat yellow gold octopus nestled inside, adorned with white diamond suckers and black diamond eyes. Well, there's hope for us then. Still, if a load of blokes are quite happy to sit around and watch shit for 6 days from a grown adult, then that'll bound to increase the viewing figures for this guy. It's Jamie.
You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to rip your insides with 183 diamonds.
Sorry, as soon as you mentioned Bond, then that's all I could think of after that, so I didn't really hear the rest of it.
I know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to, but 183 diamonds passing through your stomach and out through your arse. Oh, God,
yeah, I don't know. 110 I'd manage, but I don't know about that many.
Have you had a good time? Because obviously we've seen each other. We saw each other on New Year's Day, but everybody else hasn't because we've been away now for 10 days. Did you have a nice New Year?
I guess, yeah. I don't really do New Year, to be honest with you. Christ, when I was younger, it used to be like a big deal, but it doesn't seem to be as much so these days. I mean, watched.
I remember we always used to trade people to anti-Hailwinds up in the Wirral, didn't we? We used to spend New Year anti-Hailwinds, I remember, and Uncle Dave's, I remember that. Anyway, Daz obviously may well be away, freezing his bits off, probably, but he's always got time to send us a message. So, hello, Daz.
Hey guys, sorry I can't be with you this week again. Lots going on, if not for anything, Storm Gorecki, which is a little bit grim at the moment. So, no snow, just winds. So yeah, taking a while to get back. So so I thought I'd just check in, proof of life and all that, just make sure you knew I was all right. It's just been mental, and as you know, family comes first. So lots going on, and but all good. All good. I hope you guys are okay. Hope you had good Christmases, and looking forward to a really good New Year. And yeah, catch up with you guys in a little bit.
He's alive!
Stormu?
Gurecki. That's what it's called. That's what the French have called, isn't it? Storm Gurecki or whatever it is. Yeah, he's alive. So that's good news. Hopefully we'll get him back soon because
he's had a shave as well.
He's the only sensible one of the three of us, isn't he? Let's be honest. Yep, absolutely. He has, yeah. He's actually polished up a bit, which is lovely. News then this week, a bit of news this week. Paul Mullins' loan spell with Wigan Athletic has been cut short and the strikers return to Wrexham. Manager Phil Parkinson confirmed the move after Sunday's 2-1 victory at Derby County. Mullins' loan spell has been terminated, said Parkinson. We'll have a chat with him this week when he comes back in. He needs to train this week as he's missed a few days of training. Mullins scored 5 times in 26 appearances for Wigan and leaves the Brick Community Stadium, having been omitted from each of the club's past 4 matchday squads. It's a tricky one, this, isn't it, Jim? Because he's a hero, he's a legend. You know, we'll always love him. You know, and for what he's done, he got us here. He helped get us here. You know, and he will never ever forget that. But football is a fickle mistress, and unfortunately moves on. And I think his time with Wrexham is done, which is a great shame, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, football's a fickle mistress. Football's a bitch. You know, like you said, I think he is forever cemented in the history of Wrexham Football Club, and as a huge part of us getting to where we are today. But yeah, his time at the club, I think, was over at, you know, prior to this season. To be honest with you. You know, I've seen all the nostalgic people this week saying, "Oh, give him a run out in the cup and this, that, and the other." But it just like
if we did that means he wouldn't be able to go anywhere else because you can only play for 2 clubs in a season. So if he played even in a cup match on Friday, then he couldn't go anywhere else, and he would basically be sitting on the bench for the rest of the season.
He is like I just said. He has cemented his place in history as one of the greats to ever pull on a Wrexham shirt. There's no denying that, and nobody really can argue with that. The sad reality is, you know, we've now progressed to a level which is beyond his abilities, and that maybe sounds cruel, but it's the truth. That's what it is. It's the truth, and I think. You know, we've talked on here, and I know there's been sort of endless debate about you know, Paul Mullins' ceiling and stuff, but we've talked on here, and you know, I think I've openly said that for me, there's always been a question mark because he's unproven at League One level. You know, when we were in League One, he struggled with us. Obviously, he got this loan move to Wigan, which we all hoped and prayed would work out for him. It's obviously not worked out for him. You know, whether it's purely footballing reasons or whether there's anything else, you don't know. But the fact that they've chosen to cut his loan short is pretty telling. You know, look, I think the only thing that you know I hope for him now, and I'm sure every other Wrexham fan thinks the same thing, is that he gets a move or gets something which suits him and to allow him to continue his career. Because, you know, the bottom line is that he's 31. It's not like he's past it. You know, he's still got a good probably 3-4 years to offer a club somewhere. It just needs to be the right club. So it will be interesting to see what happens. But you know, unfortunately for all the people trying to be nostalgic about him pulling on a Wrexham shirt one more time, I just don't see it. Other than this friendly that's been announced, this behind closed doors friendly that's been announced today. But I'm, you know, on a competitive basis, I don't. Sadly, you know, it would have been nice if he would have been able to have like a bit of a send off, a bit like Ollie Palmer had in that whole game earlier this season. Yep. It would have been nice if he could have had something like that, but it wasn't to be. And I think, you know, I think unfortunately the club has moved on past his abilities now.
Very sad indeed. More sad news today of the passing this week of Terry Yorath, the former Leeds United and Cymru midfielder. Terry Yorath has died at the age of 75 following a short illness. Yorath scored 11 goals in 199 appearances for Leeds, his first professional club, in a 9-year spell from 1967. He won the First Division title with Leeds in 74 and earned a runners-up medal in the FA Cup, European Cup and Cup Winners' Cup. He played 59 times for Cymru, 42 as captain, before leading them to the brink of the 1994 World Cup finals as manager, only to see his team beaten 2-1 by Romania in the final qualifier. In 1992, his son Daniel died aged 15 from a genetic heart condition while playing football at home with his father, to most he was revered as a footballing hero, but to us he was Dad, a quiet, kind and gentle man. Our hearts are broken, and we can take comfort knowing that he will be reunited with our brother Daniel, Yorath's children said in a statement. After hanging up his boots, Yorath moved into management and had spells in charge of Swansea, Cumbria, Bradford, Cardiff, Lebanon, Sheffield Wednesday and Margate. He steered Swansea to promotion from the 4th Division in 1988 before almost guiding Cumbria to a first World Cup final since 1958. Yorath managed Wales for 41 games and led them to 16 victories, including wins against Italy and Brazil. Now, although Daz couldn't be here today, he wanted to talk about Terry Yorath, who was a hero to both of us growing up. So, yeah, over to you, Daz.
Thought I'd send a message as well, just to mark the passing of a great Welsh legend, really. Terry Yorath, short illness, I gather, passed away, which is such sad news for the Welsh nation and also football in general. Huge success with Leeds back in the 70s, obviously winning the league, Don Revie and all those, hard team. But, everything you consider about the guy, you heard that, he was a tough player. I mean, I think Graham Souness was famously said, who did he think was tougher than he was? And the name he gave was Terry Yorath. So that gives an idea of how hard a player and how tough a player he was to play against. But I also, you get the sense that, I watched highlights. I didn't really get to see him play in that in great detail, even when he was sort of older and playing in the 80s. Apparently he had flair. He had, he was a really quality player. But it was the fact that he was a genuine guy and everybody liked him, and that you got a sense of then the Terry Yorath I know, which was manager for Wales. As much as he played for Wales, played for in the 70s at a team that nearly got to a major tournament. But missed out and captained. He might have had only a 60 odd caps or something like that, and yet he captained Wales for like 2/3 of them. So, a real leader on the pitch and a real nice guy. Touched with tragedy as well. It's so sad, his son dying young, but he was also there at Bradford as assistant manager when they had the fire, and he had to get his own family out of the football ground, which was, you just can't even imagine it. And then, of course, 94, that tragic night where a fan died when we were trying to qualify for the World Cup. So, so much has happened in his career. And then you've got to give him all the credit that he deserves for being an amazing Welsh manager. Managed a team of superstars, but no egos. He managed to sort of completely, curb that when you're talking about Ian Rush and Dean Saunders and Ratcliffe and Neville Southall. I mean, there was just some great players, and for them not to have made it to a major tournament, I know that he often feared that he'll be remembered for the failure, which is really, really hard, really sad, because he was more than that. He galvanised Wales after a period of in the wilderness. So I think he'll always be remembered for me as that great football manager. I wish I got to have seen him play in person at his peak. And obviously he leaves behind a great legacy, and thoughts go out to all the family, very sad day for Welsh football.
Yeah, very, very sad. I mean, I remember that Romania qualifier. It was at the old Cardiff Arms Park, and I thought we'd done it. I really thought we'd done it, and Paul Bowden, unfortunately, with a penalty, hit the crossbar, and the rest is history. It disappointing night, to say the least. But Terry Yarrow, I mean, I met him once. I met him outside the ground once, got his autograph, and he was lovely. He was such a nice man. Always had time for everybody. Considering his life was filled with tragedy, and he had problems, inner demons and problems in his life and whatever. It's incredible that the guy just was warmth and football professionalism to the end. I mean, again, I don't know how much you remember him, Jamie, because he's probably a little bit too old.
Yeah,
for you, I think.
I'm glad Daz has had the opportunity to kind of say his piece there, because he's far better placed than I am to kind of to talk about Terry Arthur. I mean, I'm very aware of him. It's a name that I'm very aware of. In the Welsh, certainly from a Welsh football perspective. But you're right. I don't really remember him playing at all. I have recollections of him being a manager, most notably, like you say, with Wales. Unfortunately, that Romania game being the one that really kind of etches in the brain. But I think everything that's kind of come out today, so many ex-professionals and people in the game have all said some incredible things about him. It's, that's usually a mark of what kind of a person it was, wasn't it? When people,
it was a tweet from Ozzy Ardiles today, because obviously they were in the same midfield. And just to have players like that who were World Cup winners. He's basically saying, the guy was a gentle giant. He was, incredibly skillful, talented, lovely guy. To have people say that about you, that doesn't happen unless you are genuinely a great person.
No, it doesn't. And like you said before, from your own perspective, you can remember meeting him and stuff, and for somebody like you say that's had to deal with so much personal turmoil in his own life to then still have time to be nice and pleasant and upbeat for other people. Again, it seems to be a genuinely nice guy, and it is really sad, isn't it? But rest in peace.
So let's go all the way back very, very briefly to just before New Year, where Wrexham welcomed Preston North End to the Stoke Kairos. Let's look at the lineup first of all, Jamie. Unchanged from the Sheffield United win on Boxing Day. Any surprises with that? Or are you kind of thinking, he's going to stick out the same 11 because that 11 on Boxing Day did such a fantastic job?
Yeah, to be fair, I was pleasantly surprised that it was the same lineup. Just like you say, just purely because of the performance against Sheffield United on Boxing Day. But like I say, when I say pleasantly surprised, I did expect a couple of changes just purely because the game was so soon after that Sheffield United game. But pleased that it was still the same 11, because it was a great result.
Well, I don't want to dwell on this one too long, because this was quite a while ago, but very, very briefly, this game was a bit harder than the Sheffield United one, but still was a positive outcome. Double save on 22 minutes by Preston with shots from Broadhead and Moore. 28 minutes, quick distribution by Okonkwo to Broadhead, who ties the Preston defence up in knots and hits a shot just wide. So we were already making trouble for them up to that point. 38 minutes, brilliant play from back to front, pump forward from deep in the Wrexham half. Broadhead heads it onto Moore in the middle, wide to Windass, back to Moore on the wing. He beats the Preston defender with a cheeky touch and whips in across to Broadhead in the box, who heads the ball into the opposite corner of the goal for 1-0. 68 minutes, Sam Smith hits a low shot to the keeper's right, but it's saved, and then on 73 minutes gets his head on a cross from Broadhead, only hit the post. On comes Ollie Rathbone, and on 77 minutes, Broadhead to Dobson in the middle of the field, who slides a beautiful, beautiful pass through to Ollie on the edge of the box, smashes it in for 2-0. Preston did get a goal on 83 minutes to make it a bit nervy at the end, but Wrexham hung on for the win. Briefly, Jamie, because we've got lots of other games to talk about, and this was the start of what was something amazing. You were there for the Preston game. How was it?
Yeah, it was. It was like you say. It was a very different game. Preston, a very good side. Very well organised, very well set up, very hard to break down. I think, understandably, there was a little bit of fatigue on our side. With that same 11, that was the downside to playing that same 11. Literally 2 days after the Sheffield United game, which was obviously they put everything into it. But that being said, they were two fairly evenly matched teams. I think the only concern I had before we scored really was, again, the vantage point you get sitting up in the stand, and certainly where our seat is, obviously it's like pretty much halfway line, is you get a really good overview of things. And the only thing that concerned me up until the point we scored, which was kind of showed the potential pitfall to this sort of revised formation that he's played with these two number 10s, which is you sacrifice a little bit of that defensive cover. And there was a lot of times in that first half where Preston had a free man, and it was that Harrison Armstrong, the guy that was on loan from Everton, who's since now been recalled and gone back to Everton.
Yeah, he was very good.
He was very good on the ball, but I was watching him a lot, and there was so many times in that first half where he was just in acres of space because, like I say, the two that were up, the two sort of supporting attacking midfielders were they don't really track back, which is not part of their game. So I think it was just a little bit of a window into the potential pitfalls to play in this. But that being said, for me, the benefits of playing this way far outweigh the negatives. And it was a fairly even game, like you said before. You described the goal. The first goal, crazy when you look at it back to see that it was a bit of skill from Kiefer Moore on the byline and an amazing cross, and then a great header from Nathan Broadhead. Opposite way round, happy days. But brilliant play by the two of them. Fantastic from Kiefer. And a fantastic header from Broadhead. When you watch it back, how he's the precision in that header is unbelievable. But yeah, to be fair, I thought we even though Preston gave us a hard time, I think we were deserving of the lead at half time. And then, like you say, as the second half went on, it was much of the same. But Parky made the changes at the right time. Rathbone coming on. And we get that second goal, straight from League One. That second goal, Dobson to Rathbone.
Yes,
It just epitomised both of those players, really, because from Dobson's point of view, it reminded us or showed us again what we've been pleasantly surprised at, which is that he's actually better on the ball than I think any of us expected him to be. There's been a few games now where he's pulled some absolute amazing passes, and that was another one. And Rathbone just doing what he does best, running on from midfield, great run and a brilliant finish, and a superb goal, and 2-0. I thought, to be fair, I thought the game was done. The goal that we conceded back, to be fair, I think again when they looked at it back, I'm sure Parky would be a bit disappointed because we just stood off. We stood off way too much. But credit for the goal, it was a good little bit of skill to set it up and a decent finish. I think Arthur might be a little bit disappointed as well to have gotten beaten by there. But don't get me wrong, there was a little part of me that was pleasantly pleased that it went in because, for obvious reasons, which we'll get to later, 2-1 scoreline was a good one for me. The only one thing that I would say about that game, because obviously that goal went in 83 minutes, so we still had probably 10 minutes with stoppage time to play, is I thought the game management was very good, which is something I know we've been critical of in the past. I think that game and the Derby game, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I thought the game management was really good in both games, to be fair. You really did the right things at the right time. So, do you know what? I think if you'd have said, we're in dreamland at the minute, aren't we, generally? But if you'd have said at the start of the season that, by just after Christmas, you're going to have played Preston, a proper championship club, you're going to have played Preston 3 times this season, and you're going to have beat them once in a cup and taken 4 points off them in the league, you'd have snapped your hand off for that. So it was a very, very good result against a decent side and ultimately a very well established championship team. So yeah, great 3 points to sort of set that little period off.
So we ventured then to New Year's Day, and Jamie, myself, and Jamie's wife all traipsed all the way up to Blackburn for a 12:30 kickoff. Jamie had the fun of the bus.
Jamie had the fun of giving another guy a lap dance on the bus.
You'll have to explain that now, otherwise people will be wondering what you're talking about.
So we obviously arrived at our allotted bus. We got on the bus and there was 2 rows of 2 seats free. So we went to one of them. I went into the seat, sat down by the window, went to lean back, and the seat just went straight back. And I was like, oh shit. So I tried to lock it into place and it was all clearly broken. So we'll go to the ones behind it. Went to the ones behind it, sat down, boom, same thing again, but there was a bloke behind me. So it was one of those where I was kind of like, hi mate. And then he goes, yeah, those seats are broken. I was like, yeah, thanks for telling me that before I actually sat down.
I'd be stuck a note in your G-string for that dance.
There was some cupping. That's all I'll say. To be fair, I think just on a serious note, I think if we can't complain. Thankfully there was still a couple of other seats, although some people did have to sit in those seats because the bus was full. So there were people who came on afterwards that had to sit in those seats. And all I would say about it is if we would have been paying for those seats, it would have been
because of course the club basically paid for the buses, didn't they? They reimbursed.
So on that basis, you can't really complain or offer any kind of complaint. But it's poor, isn't it? If these are club buses that are being used, something as simple as that should be checked, because the seat, you couldn't sit in the seat. It was on, it was literally, you would have had to sit upright, and although Blackburn was an hour and 10 minutes away, it would have been so uncomfortable. And I really felt for the people who had to sit in that seat. But but at least I know if all else fails in life, I can maybe lap dancing as a career.
Excellent. Good. Well, good to know you've got career choices. Let's look at the lineup then. Parky decided to ring the changes from the Preston game. 5 changes, in fact. Dan Scarr came in at the back for Max Cleworth, who missed his first league game of the season. Scarr went to the centre, and Dom Hyam then moved to right centre-back to replace Max in his position. Then we had George Dobson came in for Ben Sheaf, Lewis O'Brien in for Nathan Broadhead, Ollie Rathbone came in for Josh Windass, and Sam Smith came in for Kiefer Moore. And obviously Kiefer had gone off injured, of course, in the Preston game, which we didn't mention, with a bit of a hamstring tweak. So we weren't surprised with that one. I mean, 5 changes. It had to be done, really, didn't it? Because of the amount of games that were coming up. But were you kind of thinking, "Oh, that's too many," or the wrong people, or were you quietly confident? Obviously, this is before we knew what happened. Were you quietly confident that we'd be? Because when you look at that now, you have got a lot of League One in there. You've got Smith and Rathbone, you've got Dobson, you've got Matty James, and you've got Dan Scarr and Okonkwo.
I'll be honest with you.
You've got a lot of League One now in this. Over half the 11 are the League One side.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, we were stood in the ridiculous queue to get into the ground when this dropped, and we, I read the team out to you, and we kind of spoke about it, but I didn't look at it and instantly think, "Oh my God, what's this?" But what was quite fascinating was then more so after the game, when I was on the bus on the way back and I was just scrolling through Twitter and kind of going back to stuff before the game. And the amount of people that lost their minds when they saw this team, like, what's this? Okay, that's funny. Now give us the real team. I saw lots and lots of this, and I was like, and I don't know why. Maybe I just didn't. Maybe I just didn't digest it properly at the time. But when I looked at it, I genuinely didn't sort of panic. But yeah, you're right. But I think ultimately the changes were kind of expected. I think Max, I don't think has done much wrong, but obviously Parky's got all the data and things, and clearly felt he needed a break, which is fine. I think Dobson coming in, and O'Brien and Rathbone, they all need minutes, and this is what we've been talking about all season about the squad, isn't it? And that's what you need. So I don't know. Like I say, maybe it went over my head when I saw it, but I certainly didn't look at it and think, like you just described it there, as like a lot of League One players in there. I certainly didn't look at that and panic. But that's, like I say, maybe it was because I couldn't feel my feet. I just maybe just didn't digest it properly. I don't know, but
I cuddled you to keep you warm. What are you talking about? God, some people are so ungrateful. Honestly,
Jesus Christ, yeah. But no, I mean, it's easy to say it now, isn't it? Because we know the result. But I didn't panic when I saw that team lineup. Anyway, I certainly didn't panic like seemingly a lot of other people did.
Well, in the end, everything seemed to work out lovely. 10 minutes, great long ball by Matty James to Sam Smith, who outpaces the two Blackburn centre-backs and puts it past the keeper for 1-0. Very, very similar, obviously, from that fantastic goal he scored against Charlton towards the end of last season, which was brilliant. 20 minutes, Rathbone, Longman and Smith all teamed up with some fast play that almost resulted in a goal. 37 minutes, a foul by Cantwell on Rathbone, free kick from 40 yards out, slung in by Matty James, headed across the box by Dan Scarr, and then Ollie Rathbone, how he did this, I don't know, wrapped around the foot around a volley, volleyed it into the far corner of the net. I mean, it was difficult. Jamie, I'm sure, will comment, but it was difficult for us to see because we were quite low down and at the opposite end of where everything was happening. So we kind of went, what? Has he scored? So it was great to see it afterwards. Sam Smith stopped a shot with his ghoulies before the half was out. Second half, Blackburn hit the crossbar on 55 minutes, and straight after that, long ball again to Smith, who squared the ball to an open Lewis O'Brien. And we're watching him come in. You were watching him get that ball when he's all on his own, and you're just thinking, "Oh, please put it in, please, Lewis, put it in." Unfortunately, he shot, and the keeper made a Now, I'm not going to go at Lewis O'Brien on this one because he got it on target, and the keeper did a fantastic save with one hand, put his hand up, and kept the ball out of the net. So, I'm not going to blame Lewis O'Brien for that one, but I just wanted him to score for his point. Blackburn had little else, though. They really were very, very poor. The game finished 2-0 in the end. Yeah. Couldn't feel my toes either by the end, but you know what? I wasn't bothered because after that, a very, very convincing win for me against a team who have not been great this season. But before the season started, if you'd have told me that we'd have had one draw and one win and a win like that against a team like Blackburn, I'd have thought you'd be taking drugs, to be honest.
It's very much the same scenario as what I've just said about Preston, isn't it? Blackburn, a very, very established championship side. And again, if you'd have said to us before the season started, you're going to take 4 points off Blackburn, you just snap their hand off. So, you're right. I think you have to bookend it with saying that Blackburn were very, very poor and offered very, very little. Yep. I mean, just on a side note, one thing that I did make a note of, which to mention, which was the atmosphere in the ground. The reason why I wanted to mention it was because, we seem to have a lot of Wrexham fans who like to be the atmosphere police at the Kairos and really be critical of the atmosphere a lot of the time at Wrexham. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but it was awful at Blackburn. It was terrible. Literally, there was nothing.
It has the feeling of a club that knows it's in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it's already bumbling over that they want a change at the top, at the board level. And you can see how disgruntled many of the Blackburn fans were.
I agree. And I think, and I've always been an advocate where the atmosphere is concerned, that a lot of the time the atmosphere is driven by what's going on the pitch. And if that's what they're having to watch every week, you can understand why there isn't much atmosphere. But I just, I thought I wanted to mention it because I just thought it's not unique to us. It happens everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same as the whole attendance thing, and this is more widespread criticism that Wrexham get constantly. Where were you when you were shit and all that crap? And Blackburn is just a great example of it's what happens in football, isn't it? When clubs are successful, there's more interest in it. And Christ, how many empty seats were there in that stadium? Granted, it is quite a big stadium. There were a lot of empty seats, but there was at least 2 full levels that weren't even utilised at all, and then lots of other gaps everywhere. So, yeah, it's just, I think it's poignant because I think it just kind of highlights that these things do go on elsewhere. It's not just us. But yeah, the game itself, Blackburn were really poor. That first half, we were. The words I noted down were strong and composed. I thought in that first half, we didn't think we were necessarily blistering, but we were strong and we were composed and we never really looked in any trouble. I think, to be fair, what was really noticeable was it was in that game, and it was more noticeable again when we went the Derby game, which came after this. But unlike earlier in this season when Sam Smith's had cameos and we've carried on playing the same way as if it was Kiefer Moore, we changed the way we play. We were playing more to his strengths, and that brought him into the game more and means he could be more effective. But yeah, from our point of view, we couldn't have done much more. I mean, his goal, Sam Smith's first goal, was route one, but it was still a lovely goal. I mean, Matty James with another superb ball over the top. I mean, we've seen this now several times in the last 12, 18 months, haven't we? But it was an absolutely inch perfect pass. And Sam Smith still had a lot to do. I think if you were on the Blackburn camp, you'd be a little bit critical of the defending. Although having said that, if that's how they've been set up to play a very high line, which they obviously had, then it's you run that risk. The goalkeeper, I think, could have and probably should have done better, but it was a brilliant finish, and a deserving goal for us, a deserved lead. But then, yeah, that was just like the starter to the main course that followed not long after. Rathbone was, I mean, on a side note, he was man of the match by a mile. I mean, he covered every blade of grass, and he reminded us, what we got from him the second half of last season.
He was player of the season for a reason last year. And what we've got now is we've got prime Ollie back. He's come back from his injury, and he has come back hungry. You can see it, the hunger, he's everywhere. He's bothering, he's getting in the way, he's grabbing the ball, he's moving it quickly, he's passing to feet, he's getting in the way. Just that's what you want. Even if he's not scoring goals, he's a bother, and therefore he's creating chances for other players. And I don't know about you, Jamie, but I feel that his inclusion in his lift is lifting other players as well. I really think that it is having a positive effect on the rest of the team. I don't know whether you agree.
I do agree. I mean, whether we're coming at it maybe from the same way, I don't know. But one of the things that I made a note on to mention when we were going to talk about Ollie Rathbone, which was exactly like you've just said there. He's come back into the team, and he's brought back into the team that energy and that enthusiasm and that fight and that fire that we saw from him the second half of last season, which, like you say, ended up with him getting player of the season. And what that does, when you have a player like that, you form a connection with the fans, and the player forms a connection, and you can see it. You can see the connection between the fans and Ollie, and it's something that we've talked about this season. And one of the things I was going to mention was on the last pod, somebody put a comment on the YouTube video about the fact that I'd mentioned when we beat Sheffield United that Josh Windass hadn't kind of celebrated when his cross, it was a deflected goal, but his cross was a deflected goal. And I think, and I replied to it, politely replied to it, to just sort of highlight and say, and when Ollie Rathbone put that performance in against Blackburn, it was like a visual representation of what I was trying to say, and what I want to see a bit more of from Josh Windass is that just that fire and that desire and that that bit of emotion, and Ollie epitomises it. But in that game, he was actually superb. His goal was next level. Like you say, on the day. We knew it was a great strike, but we were the complete opposite end of the pitch. The thing is, everybody was talking about Bamford's goal at Sheffield United. For me, that is equally as good, because he's looking over his shoulder at a ball that's coming over his shoulder, and he hits it on full volley, and it goes perfectly into the far corner of the net. I mean, first and foremost, he started by winning the free kick, which was a horrible tackle, because I know. Even from where we were, you said to me, Christ, that's on his ankle again. And when you watched it back, it wasn't a pretty challenge, that. No. So he wins the free kick in the first...
You're a girl.
Yeah, I'll got that in a minute. So he wins the free kick to start with. In fairness, I know I was listening to Racecourse Ramble earlier on, and I know Matt called it out, which is a great spot. It was a terrible ball in by Matty James. But it was Dan Scar that kept it alive by flicking it back into the danger zone. But I don't play football anymore. But when I did, I was never amazing. But even I know how difficult a technique that was to volley it like he did over his shoulder, watching it and to finish it like he did, it was an absolutely unreal finish. And I agree with you. It's every bit as good as Bamford's goal for Sheffield United against us on Boxing Day. And quite rightly, we were 2-0 up. And to be honest with you, at that point, you and I were kind of saying to each other that if we carry on, we could give them a hiding, because they offered bugger all. I think, we then got to half time, still 2-0. I think the only downside was then his second half, everything dropped. But I can kind of understand that, even though there was a lot of changes in that lineup, it was still players who played a lot of minutes in a short space of time. And when your opposition's not really pushing you or pressing you, why go nuts and exert yourself? We've done the hard work. I mean, in the second half, the only things that I had of note was the Lewis O'Brien 101, which is just, I feel for him. I really feel for him, because to me it looks like it's a confidence thing now, because there's been so many and they're obviously high profile. At first it was funny, then it was bad luck. Now I think it's just a lack of confidence,
But he did get it on target, right? So
Yeah,
I've got no problems with it, because the keeper did make. You look at it. If you look at it back, the keeper was going the wrong way, and the last minute he stretched his arm up and tips the ball wide.
I'll agree with you and disagree with you at the same time. It was a good save, so on that I'll agree with you. But I don't think. I still don't think he should have missed that. He should have just put his foot through it instead of trying to dink it, basically, is what he was trying to do. I'm sure it'll come good. The most important thing for me is that he's making those runs. When he's playing, he's making those runs and he's getting in those positions. And as long as he keeps doing that, that's all I'm bothered about, because it'll come good and eventually he will pick up goals. And I suppose at the end of the day, you've got to remember that if he was scoring 12, 15 goals from midfield a season, then he'd probably be playing for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League.
Absolutely, yes.
There's a reason why he's in the Championship. He offers a lot of other things. Like I say, to me, it's just tongue in cheek, a bit of fun. I think at the minute it's a confidence thing, but there was that. And the only other thing of notice in the second half was obviously they did hit the bar, which again, I didn't realise this until I watched it back. But it's actually an unbelievable tackle by Dom Hine. Because if you watch it back, I had to rewind it a couple of times. When I first watched it, I thought Arthur saved it. But it was only when I watched it back, it's actually Dom Hine on a full stretch, and it just gets enough of a flick on it to hit the bar. So that's an unbelievable tackle. But no, I think the second half was just a bit of a nothing, really. We'd done the hard work. Bottom line is we've gone away from home in a very congested time. I think the highlights of the second half were probably the little bit of banter with the Blackburn fans, which was really funny. Their kind of hardcore, which was well, we started singing to them. There's only 3 of you singing, which they shouted back. There's actually 5 of us, so we changed it to 5 of you singing. As you say, their number 10, whose name I forget now, the chance of "Are you a man or a woman?" That was quite funny. Yeah, that was quite funny because he had very hair like Aha from the 80s. It was very it was very volumized. But yeah, are you a man or a woman? That tickled me. And then obviously when they all started leaving en masse with about 10 minutes to go, is there a fire drill? That's
always my favourite.
Well. So
that's always a favourite.
Ultimately, good day out.
And now it's time for the away day footy scran review.
So, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Where's she gone? There she is. Happy New Year. So, here we are, Blackburn Rovers. So there must be an away day footy scran review. And unfortunately, we've gone for the pretty crappy stuff. So I've gone for a rollover, which is basically a hot dog. Not very nice. I'm not holding much hope. Jamie, however, has got something that is a bit nicer.
Only one of these is mine, though.
Okay. Well, they are, what are they? Clayton Park Bakery?
Yeah, steak and pepper pie.
Steak and pepper pie. So we'll eat them and we'll let you know what it's like. I don't hold out much hope for these. They're not very good. You get them from garages. So there we are, an away day footy scran review. rollover hot dog, a bag of shit. It's a dog, real dog in a bun. It's a hot dog. It's crap.
It's funny you say that because I think my steak and pepper pie was actually dog and pepper pie. Because that was shit as well.
Kelly,
I actually quite enjoyed it.
you enjoyed it.
Listen, I'm not taking the opinion of somebody that has salmon paste on toast for breakfast in a food review. I'm sorry, it's not
We're having
happening.
a domestic over a pie.
It's not
It
happening.
was definitely a 5 out of 10.
Bullshit.
So what? Hang on a second, right? So
That doesn't count.
big bits of steak in there.
It was big bits of something.
It was the gravy that was really
Shitty
Gravy.
shitty cheap gravy.
Gravy. Pastry.
Listen, it wasn't a patch on the steak pie at the Kairos.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to give the rollover 3 fryers out of 10.
I'll give the pie 3 dogs out of 10.
5 out of 10 for the gravy.
Doesn't count.
How much?
5 out of 10.
5.
Doesn't count.
Let's average it to 4 then. Let's average the whole meal as I sit down. I can see that face. Look at that face. Look at that face.
To be fair, I'm going to take a point. I'm going to take 1 off because the cup of tea was lukewarm, so I had to drink it really quickly. So yeah, I'm definitely going. On that basis, let's do 3.5 because the gravy was still really good.
3.5. 3.5.
3.5.
I've got a lion bar to eat in a minute. It's probably going to taste like a pepperami.
3.5 then for the very disappointing footy scran. Hopefully the game will be better. Yeah. So up the town.
Up the town.
Up the town. Up the town. I'm really gonna have to pick the game up because the food has been shocking recently.
I'd erased that from my brain until you just reminded me. That was a terrible pie. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the rollover is what I expected it to be. But I was disappointed because I thought those pies, because they were local, I thought they'd be a bit better. But
going back to what I was saying at the start about the atmosphere in the stadium and stuff. Remember that's an ex-Premier League stadium.
Yeah,
granted it was some time ago, but it's still an ex-Premier League stadium. I genuinely thought the facilities would be a bit better, but it was terrible.
We were queuing for the food and the drinks. It was awful. And I know some away. I noticed this week that some people who visit the racecourse away fans, complain about how cramped it is. And it is. It was built in 1971, 72, so it's over 50 years old, and it's very cramped in that corner. So I get that. But as you say, this is a ex-Premier League side. You'd think they should have.
Well, it was. The actual, like you say, queuing for ages. I mean, I felt for the old guy stood next to us in the queue next to us because the 2 lads that were in front of them basically were just ordering pints for about 25 mates constantly. So he was stood there for about half an hour, bless him. But
absolutely.
The amount of time you were queuing and then what was actually available was pretty poor, really. I mean, I don't know, but
it was poor. Let's look at the footy scran table then. Blackburn then go in second from bottom with 3.5 for the steak and pepper pie and the rollover. Swansea still top with 9. Then Ipswich, Stoke, Briton Ferry Llansawell, Southampton, Aberystwyth, Leicester, Blackburn and Wembley Stadium, London. I've bought tickets this week for QPR and for Sheffield Wednesday. So I'll be going to both of those away games. So I will endeavour. Well, Sheffield Wednesday is going to be difficult because, again, that's another 12:30. So it's finding somewhere that's open at 12:30, but I'll endeavour to do that. But I think QPR should be quite good. But I'm not having jelly deals or any of that nonsense. I'm not sure whether you even have that in QPR. I don't even know where it is. But yeah, so we'll endeavour to do better. But yes, well done Blackburn for coming second from bottom. Probably the same place as you'll be at the end of the season.
Meow.
So we moved to Sunday, back on the road, as we went to Pride Park and Derby County away. 4 changes from the Blackburn win, pretty much reverting almost back to the game before that. So Max Cleworth back in for Dan Scarr, Ben Sheaf back in for George Dobson, Nathan Broadhead in for Lewis O'Brien, and Josh Windus in for Ollie Rathbone. In fact, the only person who really survived was Sam Smith. I mean, with that lineup, Jamie, 4 changes again, using the squad, doing well. I thought this was going to be quite a difficult game. So I was pleased to see Windass and Broadhead back in. How did you feel about looking at these changes for the Derby game?
Yeah, again, I mean, it's easy to say it, isn't it? After the event and when you know the score, but there was nothing in that lineup that surprised me, other than was Keith fit? But to be fair, like you said, I'm really happy that he brought Broadhead and Windass back in, and he's happy to persist with that slightly more offensive formation, because A, it's been working, but B, it's been so enjoyable. Most of the games that we've played recently since Swansea, big parts of the games have been enjoyable to watch. Yes, at times it's been frustrating because we've conceded a goal or we've been under the cosh a little bit here and there, but generally we've played really, really well, and it's been bloody good to watch. And that's from my point of view, that's what I've said all along, is that I'll always take success over performance, but it's also nice to be entertained when you're watching your team play, and we've had that these last couple of games. So yeah, I was delighted to see, even in an away game, he'd gone back to that Broadhead and Windass. And to be honest with you, I think Broadhead in particular, I think Windass, it'll be interesting to see what happens the second half of the season with him, because I think he needs to start finding a bit more of a groove and showing a bit more consistency. Hopefully now, if they can stay fit and we can keep this formation, he will get a bit more momentum, and he will get a bit more consistency. Broadhead, I think, has been superb in these last few games, very much showing us what we knew he was capable of. Now we're playing to his strengths in a system that suits him. He was superb. He was good against Sheffield United. He was good decent against Preston, and he was superb in this game. But yeah, I'm happy enough with that lineup.
Well, I was listening to this on the way to the Wrexham Women's game, but massively impressed with how Wrexham performed in this game. 3 minutes, Broadhead with a shot on the edge of the box, hits the post, gets the rebound and then hits it over the bar. 7 minutes, Sheaf crosses to Smith, who heads it just wide. 24 minutes, Broadhead and Smith link up again as Nathan puts it in the box and Smith beats the defender and guides into the net for 1-0. 33 minutes, Derby wrestle the ball in midfield and break with a long ball to Brereton, who puts the ball past Okonkwo to level the game, which we've seen Derby do before against other sides. Wrexham continued to press, though, with more chances from Broadhead. Second half, 47 minutes, poor clearance to Matty James, 25 yards out, who hits this absolute rocket into the net to put Wrexham back in the lead. And then very little else happened then in the second half until 79 minutes. Ollie smashes it over the bar. Derby did little else, with Wrexham held on to the 2-1 win, sending the 2,598 Wrexham fans home happy. Yes, 2,598 fans, the highest away attendance in the EFL that weekend. Where were you when we were shit? Rings out. Wrexham finished the week as the only team in the Championship to win all 4 of their games over the Christmas and New Year period. That's 12 points out of 12. 9th now in the Championship, only 1 point off the playoffs, and say it in a very, very quiet voice, 6 points off the second automatic promotion spot. It's interesting as well, the Preston game was Parkinson's 250th game in charge of Wrexham. He's 5th on the all-time list of Wrexham games managed for the club. He's now the longest-serving manager in the Championship, 6th longest in the 92 clubs in the Premier League, Championship, Leagues 1 and 2. Just talk about the game first, Jamie, then I've got some questions for you about this whole kind of thing of the 4 games from Sheffield United up to this game. What were your thoughts first on this performance versus Derby County?
The first 10 to 12 minutes was arguably the best football we've played all season. It was unbelievable. The most noticeable thing was the fact that we very much came out of the blocks fast, but it wasn't just about having possession for possession's sake. We were so the forward momentum trying to get the ball forward, and in that first 10 minutes you had Nathan Broadhead had an amazing chance where he created it for himself, hits the post, and will probably be really disappointed that his rebound wasn't better, but that was a superb effort. You had Sam Smith with a 6-yard header that he probably should have hit the target with, but he puts it wide. And then you had Josh Windass who had a shot from about 18 yards out, and to be fair, the goalkeeper makes a great save. 3 really, really good chances in that first 10 minutes. And to be honest with you, we got, after 10 minutes, I very quickly went on to FOTMob and I took a screenshot of the stats because I was curious to see what it was. So I took this screenshot after 11 minutes, 18 seconds of the game. And at that point, we'd had 79% possession. We'd had 6 shots, and we'd had 1 on target. Derby had no shots on target, and had 21% of the ball. That's how dominant we were. We were absolutely, it was amazing. The only downside is when you got 10, 12 minutes into it, the roles reversed a little bit. We regressed, and they came into the game and started creating chances, although I didn't necessarily think that they had as many good chances as we did. So my only concern was, are we gonna regret not capitalising on the dominance in that early part of the game? But to be fair, we did get the first goal, and what a brilliant goal it was. Again, some lovely patient build-up play on that left-hand side. Broadhead, George Thomason and Callum Doyle, who I'll mention it now just before I forget, but he is a Rolls Royce of a player, Callum Doyle. He has been so good in these last few games and is very much showing us what all the fuss was about now. I know when he first came into the team, he was a bit iffy, and then he got that red card and he missed 3 games. But since he's come back into the team, he is so good. He is so good, such a quality player. But yeah, some great little build-up play between those 3. Ball comes into Sam Smith. It was another superb finish, such a good goal. Brilliant movement and a great finish. And we thoroughly deserved, even though Derby had come back into the game, after that, at that point, we deserved to be in the lead. Unfortunately, we did concede. And again, I think disappointing. Again, they will have analysed the goals that we've conceded, and I think if you're looking at it defensively, you're disappointed. We lose the ball, in a really what should be a position that shouldn't bother us, because we're in more or less in their final third. I think it was Josh Windass who got caught on the ball, but then they just carved through us as if we were stood still. And in the end, it ends up that Briton Diaz's feet. Who, you've got to remember, this guy's a Chilean international, for Christ's sake. They've got some good players in that team. That Clark was really good. The guy on the left, the American guy, what was his name? He terrorised.
Agyemang?
Yeah, Agyemang. Yeah, he terrorised us, and then they brought on another lad on the other side in the second half who terrorised Longman for the time he was on the game. So they got some quality bloody players. But
is that one of Wrexham's kind of weak points? Is in, if we are moving forward and we get caught in possession, we don't reset quickly enough back into defence and open that kind of counter-attack up too easily?
Maybe it's going to happen, isn't it? You are going to get caught out. I think just going back to what I was saying really in that Preston game was, I think the only thing we've got to be cautious of, and Parky will be very aware of it, because his mantra very much is don't let goals in. This way we've been playing in these last few games of a more offensive way of playing, I think will be taking him some getting used to, because it's against what he is typically used to playing. He's a very defensively minded manager. That's not a criticism. That's an observation. But I think there have been a couple of moments. Obviously, the Sheffield United game 5-3. There were times in that first half against Preston. There were times in this Derby game where it kind of just reminds you what the trade-off is to having the more offensive, attacking, threatening option. The trade-off is that by having those creative players, attack-minded players in the final third, they are players that typically won't really track back. They've not got the engine or the foresight to track back like your Dobsons, your Rathbones, your O'Briens will. So that's the little bit of a trade-off. But ultimately, you're going to give away chances and you're going to give away goals. And take nothing away from the finish. I mean, he Dom Heim, who's been superb for us. Diaz put him on his arse with a lovely little sidestep and slotted it past Arthur. I think at that point, 35 minutes into the game, you'd have been hard to argue. I think that they probably didn't deserve it because they had come back into the game, albeit I think we'd had the best chances. But then, like you say, we go into the second half, and it wasn't maybe as free flowing as the first half had been. But then, obviously, that moment from Matty James, I mean, it's terrible play by Derby. I mean, it's such a poor ball out. But when he hits it, again, we've all watched enough football over the years to know sometimes you see a player hit a ball and you know from the second he's hit it, it's going in. And I literally was off the sofa because I knew that was going in. It was such an amazing strike. And what I really loved about it was the celebration afterwards. Yeah. Right? Because this brings me back to kind of a bigger thing that I've been talking about. I've been talking about it for the last few weeks about connection with the fans. I've Josh Windass has been somebody I've mentioned a lot for it. And in fairness to him, he was right in the thick of these celebrations. He was smiling. He was right in the thick of it. Yep. So fair play.
He obviously listens to the pod, Jamie. So that's good news.
Yeah, obviously he does. Yeah. But after that goal went in, I mean, it was funny, and I think Matty James was saying in his post-match press conference that he got a lot of stick from the lads afterwards for it because I think he just didn't know what to do. But it was a lovely moment to see him basically turn around and sprint to celebrate with the away fans. You had Sam Smith when he scored his goal going to the away fans and kissing the badge, which we all love, don't we? Mm-hmm. But during that moment after that goal, and then I'll mention it now, but at the end of the game, they all went over, and there's that connection is building. Yes. That will help the atmosphere. We are starting to get a connection and a bond now with these players. Something that we've had with Mullin, Palmer, Lee, and all these players the last few seasons. It's something that we've struggled with a little bit this season, but it's understandable because we had such a turnover of players. But certainly in that Derby game, after Matty James scored at the end of the game, you're starting to see it now. There's a connection building, which is lovely to see. But I was so happy for Matty James because you give him a shout out. I mean, Christ Almighty, he's played a lot of minutes in these games over the Christmas period, and he's been instrumental in these games as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's crazy to say it, but he looks better in the Championship than he did in League One. Whether that's because he's not being, he's playing against a better, technically better players, and his technical ability can shine more rather than having 7 bells knocked out of him like you're going to get in the lower leagues. I don't know, but unbelievable goal. Some of the little intricate passing in that game was noticeable, but again, it's something that I've noticed in recent games. I'm not going to say
it's not just lump it up from the back. We're actually now starting to play ball.
Yes,
to feet, passing to feet, triangles. Long, down the wings through the channels. Not just it goes to Arthur or it goes to one of the defenders, and then they lump it up, hoping that Keith Morgan can get on the end of it.
Absolutely, and I think the key to that is that I don't think that's something that Parky's only just decided, we're going to start doing that now. I think it's a testament to the level that we're now at. We've now got players who are comfortable and competent enough, and that sounds really disrespectful to the players of the last few seasons, but you know what I mean. We've got players now who are technically much better and able to have the ball at their feet in confined spaces like that. But some of the little triangle passing and moving, and that kind of leads on to what I was saying before about the game management. Because again, it was good in this game. It was good in this game, and a lot of that was from having the confidence to pass in those little triangles and not just lump the ball into the corner or try and run the ball into the corner. I thought over the course of the game, even though I think in the end, I think Derby did have some really good chances as the game went on. I thought we were good value for that win, to be fair. And like you say, to finish what was and what we all expected to be a very, very difficult period with 4 wins is ridiculous. There's no other word for it. Ridiculous, but absolute credit to the players. All the players, the squad. It's the squad. It's not just the team. It's the squad have all played their part, and huge, massive credit to Parky. I touched on it when we talked about the Sheffield United game, but to have the balls to do what he did after that Swansea game, credit to him.
Right. Well, let's look at this whole thing. All right. A few questions for you, Jamie, about the whole thing. Because, as I said in my preamble, the only team in the Championship who played all 4 games to win all 4 games, 12 points out of 12. I think after the display against Swansea just before the Sheffield United game, if you'd have asked me, what are we going to get from the 4 games over Christmas and New Year, I'd have said, I don't know, 3 points. I'd have thought a few draws, a couple of draws maybe, and some losses. There's no way in a million years, I don't think any fan, unless you are the absolute, diehard, never take it that you're going to lose, would have said 12 points. So let's first of all look at the players. We've had a number of players who have really now started to come out of their shell. Doyle, as you mentioned earlier, had a bit of a dubious start. Now is really starting to find his groove. Okay. Matty James, again, we know what he's capable of. Was a little bit off the boil at the beginning of the season, where, we kind of put him with Sheaf, put him on his own, don't play him, put Sheaf in instead. A lot of people saying Sheaf is a better player, but you can see over this Christmas New Year period, he's really stamped his authority on the midfield position. Thomason filling in. I mean, don't forget, we haven't got our number 1 left and right wing backs in a system where we play massively wing back football, right? And yet we've got no Kabore, we've got no Kakache, and yet Thomason's gone in there and he's gone to a duck to water and played some fantastic football. I think he was starting to tire by the Derby game. You could see it, but didn't make any massive mistakes or massive boo-boos. Broadhead now really starting to come into into form. Windass always kind of at that level, but now starting to look as if he's enjoying his game a bit more. Sam Smith finally getting chances to up front, while Kiefer Moore has been injured, and boy has he taken them. Again, we were worried that we're a team that only relies on the Kiefer Moore method, and if he goes out, we're going to be in trouble. Well, we've proved that's wrong. Parky, as you rightly say, he has changed his formation, and he's stuck more up front, and he's got that box midfield or 3 up front or whatever it is. Again, he's adapting. Then you've still got players like Dobson who are doing absolutely brilliantly, again, way above where you thought he was going to be. Max Cleworth, again, stepping up again another level and going there. Arthur really making a massive difference in the sticks. So many of these players for me over the last 2 or 3 weeks have really stepped up to the mark. Massive question for you. Give me one player, only one, who has impressed you the most over the last 4 games.
Doyle, I think for me, I think you've mentioned quite a few there, and I don't disagree with any of those. And you could keep going. I think the squad, and I'll keep using that term. I think you have to give a lot of credit to that bunch of players as a whole, as a collective, and I include the management team in that as well, because after that Swansea game, it wasn't good enough, was it? We've had this conversation before earlier in the season when we played Cardiff. That wasn't good enough of a performance in what was a very important game for the fans. But they've obviously sat down, they've discussed it, and between them have had conversations. And the most important thing is that they've gone out there and they've done something about it. And I haven't got. There's not enough credit I can lay at them as a group. But if you're asking me to isolate one, for me, Callum Doyle, I like I said briefly before, again, a little bit like what I said about Lewis O'Brien. I think you've got to remember that there's a reason why he's not playing in the Premier League. There's a reason why he's playing at this level. But he is. I mean, I think he's certainly got the potential, because he's still very young. He's certainly got the potential to be a Premier League player, definitely. But I think the bit for me that is so impressive is his distribution on the ball. He passes the ball like a midfielder. He is so clever. His football brain is so clever. I think the other thing that I didn't mention before when I was talking about him, obviously, like you said yourself, he started the season a bit iffy for us. He got that suspension. When he come back, he looked trimmer to me as well. Looked like he maybe shifted a few pounds as well. Fitter. I don't think he'd had much of a pre-season. So absolutely, he's been unbelievable these last few games, and we're very lucky to have him in our team. And I think the future of him on one side and Max on the other is an exciting one. I think the other thing it does show you is it maybe highlights how far Max has how much Max has got to keep progressing, because I think he's doing very, very well at this level. He's more than holding his own, and quite rightly he's got his place in this team. But I think if you compare his performances, a lot of his performances, or a lot of what he does during the game to what Doyle does, it shows you the level Max has got to try and get to. And that's not criticism. That's more, hopefully Max will he would recognise that himself, but he will learn, and he's going to keep learning. Doyle for me has been, if I'm only picking one, I would pick Doyle. I think he's been superb.
So you mentioned Phil Parkinson earlier, and obviously the whole of the management team, Steve Parkin, or all of them have done brilliantly well. Very noticeable this week that a lot of the other podcasts and social media commenters have gone eerily quiet over the last few weeks, even with some turning completely 180 degrees round. I'm looking at you, Second Tier Podcast, who basically now are singing Parky's praises, saying about how wonderful he is. As I said, he's the longest standing manager in the Championship. A number of managers are falling around him like nine pins. I never had any doubt apart from the Swansea game, because at that point I really thought, listen, your tactics are not working at this level. You need to do something. And he did. He has done something. And look what's happened. I mean, can we say anything else about Parky apart from, what did you expect from Parky? I told you what I expected after the Swansea game. It was the first time I really doubted him, and I will happily say I was wrong, because it shows that he can adapt. What do you think?
I will happily continue to talk about Parky from my own perspective, because that's how I've always spoken about him. I've never once said Parky out, despite how frustrated I've been at times. I've been very open and very honest about the fact that a lot of the time, prior to probably that Sheffield United game, I didn't particularly like the style of football we were playing. But, as I've always said, I will happily take result over performance if it means we're going to be successful. But I think everybody, me, has to be nothing but positive and heap nothing but praise on him, because he's obviously recognised that something had to change after that Swansea game. Something had to be done. And I don't believe it's something that he's just gone to bed that night and thought, I'm going to try this tomorrow. It's something that he's obviously been working on and had in his mind. But I suppose you don't get to a situation where you've managed 1,000 games and you have a philosophy and a way of playing, and suddenly overnight you're going to switch it and do something else. But I think he's got to a point where he's had to do something. And what's really good about it is the fact that he's not like he's deviated completely from his morals and his kind of identity. It's still a similar system, still three at the back, it's still with wing backs. But the changes he's made have absolutely been for the best, to get the best out of the players that he has available to him. And I think what these last few games in particular have done is answered that question once and for all. And the question that I've asked myself, which is the Championship his ceiling? Has he got the tactical ability to adapt at this level? And he has shown us in the last few games that he absolutely has. So hats off to him. A huge amount of credit and praise to him. And if it goes to shit from here and we end up finishing in the bottom half, then so be it. But it gives you great optimism for what's to come. I don't believe that's what will happen, but it gives you optimism of what's to come. Nothing but credit to him. I think he's. I think you were saying there about all the other managers falling around him and everything else. I think you also have to give a little bit of credit to the hierarchy at the club for not sticking with him, but for never ever. I don't think there's ever been a question.
No.
Even though there was that talk.
There was that crap, wasn't there? There was that crap at the
you know.
beginning of the season, and Sean Harvey shut that down very, very quickly, which was great.
And I genuinely think that is because the God's honest truth is, I think, as far as Rob and Ryan are concerned, and then the other hierarchy at the club, I genuinely think they couldn't care less. He, as far as they're concerned, what he says is right, and you know what? Hats off to them as well for putting their faith and their trust in somebody. They've chosen the person they thought was the right person to take us on this journey. You know, how long it will go on for and how long it will be with Parky, who knows? But I certainly don't think he's finished yet, that's for sure.
Well, with that in mind, as I said, 1 point now off sixth place, 6 points off the second automatic promotion, with 3 weeks left of the transfer window, and there have been some realistic links to some players and some absolutely ludicrous ones, which, you know, I don't, and again, we don't do that on this pod. We don't say, oh, he's been linked and he's been linked, because most of it is crap. We'll only announce it once it's officially announced by the club, and that's fine. I'll let other podcasts speculate about who we might or may not sign. But where are we going from here, Jamie, is the question. You said we might completely bomb out now and drop down to the bottom half of the league. We might push on. We might stay where we are. And what's your feeling?
I think it will be fascinating to see what happens throughout the rest of January and what they do in the transfer window. Because the question you've got to ask yourself now is, whatever the plans were for January, I think those plans would have been probably made in October, probably before the Swansea game.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will have necessarily torn that up and thought, oh, you know, we're not going to do that now because we've had such, you know, four amazing results and we're now where we are. As we've spoken about at length, you know, this league, this season in particular, is ridiculous. The how competitive it is, and we could have a situation now where we lose the next 4 games, and before we know it, we're back in the bottom half again. So I don't think the last 4 results will necessarily change whatever they had planned, but it's a mystery, isn't it? It's all this speculation, you know, and everyone claims to be in the know. A lot of it's clickbait shit. I mean, I saw something before I came on here about Wrexham interested in Jesse Lingard. Fuck off. You know, I mean, absolutely no chance. I mean, there's that lad from Atletico Madrid, that striker that was supposedly we're in talks to buy. This is the guy that's earning 100 grand a week and is playing regularly in the Liga. You know, never say never. I mean, Christ, if we've learned anything over the last 5 years, is that anything is possible.
He's not the right player that we need. You wouldn't spunk all your money on one player.
No,
you know, we need some support in other areas of the field. We need backups or primary players in other areas of the field. You don't blow everything on a name signing.
Prior to the last 4 games, so after the Swansea game, my gut feeling was we were probably going to be looking for 1 or 2 wing backs and a striker. That's what I thought we would probably be in the market for. And if that's the case, I don't think we'd probably deviate from that. I think in some ways, you know, Thomason really has been a lucky bonus, because I don't think even Parky would, you know, as much as he's been able to watch him in training and think he can do a job there for us, I don't think he would have in his wildest dreams would have imagined he'd been as good as he has been. But is he a long-term, you know, unless we're going to Tom O'Connor him and you know, force him to be a left wing back going forward.
I love that. That's an adjective. We're going to Tom O'Connor him.
Yeah. You know, I don't know, you know, but I don't believe that's his chosen position. So,
I mean, do we need a striker now? Because obviously Sam Smith has now started to get his eye in and started to score.
I mean, that's what I was going to say, was the fact that I think if we bring a striker in, I'm not saying we are going to, or we're even in for one, but if you bring a striker in, you would feel a little bit for Sam Smith, I think, because, you know, he's finally got a chance, albeit unfortunately it's been through an injury to Kiefer, a proper chance. I know he's played, you know, he's had substitute appearances and stuff earlier in the year, but you can't it's very rare you can influence a game like that. You know, he's now had a couple of starts, and most importantly, as a team, we've played to his strengths and got him in the games, and he scored 2 goals. So, but again, you've got to ask yourself the question about what are the ambitions of the club, what are the ambitions of the owners, and for me, my gut feeling is, and obviously, I don't know Rob and Ryan at all. I only know what I see on the documentary.
Well, I've met Ryan, of course, you know, so I'm just saying. So.
Yeah, but he doesn't follow you on Twitter, does he? From what we've seen in the documentary, and obviously you take that with a pinch of salt because it's TV, but from what we've seen and from what we've known and learned about them over the last few years, they don't seem the type of people that are going to want to do it conventionally. And if there is a chance that we could do it this year, do I think that would be a good thing? Probably not.
No.
But
no other side ever would manage to get 4 back-to-back promotions. It will never, ever happen again.
No,
because it's so many pieces of luck has had to fit in, and other teams playing below par and those kind of things. I said it last year. You know, we benefited last year from some big teams underperforming. Yep.
And it's the same this year. This is a replica of League One from last year, where I don't think.
Here's the thing, like Richie on the Racecourse Ramble, he's predicted Norwich to go down, and then we were all laughing at him, going, "Norwich going down? You must be joking! Look at them; they're in 23rd. They can't buy a win."
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is it's there, isn't it? It's very open. You said it yourself before. We're 3 points? 1 point out of playoffs?
1 point from 6th. And 6 points from 2nd.
So, what I can't even say what I expect to happen because I just don't know anymore, right? But would it surprise me in the slightest if we turn the clocks forward 3 weeks' time at the end of January and we've gone and spent another 30 million quid and brought in 2 or 3? It won't be another 8. I think if they're going to go for it, I think they'll go for it with quality, as in they will look to make a splash.
3 quality players at £10 million plus a piece. I could quite easily see.
And I suppose if you park everything to one side, if you park the concerns about the infrastructure, if you park concerns about the fact we've only got 3 fucking sides on the ground, if you park the fact that we've got one little shed that dispenses food, if you park the fact we haven't got a training ground, and all these other things, if you park all them for a minute, if you park the fact that I'm not even sure I want to go to the Premier League, just for 1 second, if you're Rob and Ryan and your mission when you started this task was to get Wrexham to the Premier League, and you have an opportunity of doing it now,
within 5 years, of taking over the club.
And like you say, achieving something that not only has never been done before, but would never, ever be done again.
No chance.
They strike me as the sort of people that will probably have a go at that.
Rob definitely would. Rob has no grounding in reality where sport is concerned. He basically, believes in fairies where that's concerned. I think Ryan is a little bit more pragmatic, but even he, you saw how excited he was with his knitted Hugh Jones jumper, Wrexham shirt, which I thought was brilliant.
So next week when we're talking about our new signings, Haaland, Mbappe, and Messi, I'm going to look like a right dick, aren't I? No, I thought honestly, I've given up trying to guess. Nothing would surprise me anymore.
No.
Absolutely not. There's a part of me that thinks, do you know what? Do they reset now after these last 4 performances? Do they reset and think, well, do you know what? We've clearly got enough to stay in this league. Why don't we take whatever we were going to spend in January and keep it? We've obviously got a squad that's good enough to be more than good enough to compete at this level. We've got more than enough to stay up. You never know. We might still be able to get playoffs with the squad we've got as it is now. But, you don't know about injuries and stuff like that. Let's keep the money we were going to spend and then let's go big in the summer. But I don't believe that's what they'll do.
No,
So
neither do I.
Neither do I.
If track record is anything to go by, and don't forget, historically over the last number of years, January has been the key time. We got Ollie Palmer in, we got Sam Smith and Jay Rodriguez in. We've always brought in the player who has managed to make a difference heading towards the finishing line at the end of the season. Why is that going to change? Absolutely not.
The only problem this time round is I don't really think there is a glaring position where you could say, if you go and get this, that's probably going to
I agree.
Take you close to the line, because I think from a wing back perspective, we've talked about how important the wing backs are, but we're seemingly not far away from being in a situation where our two main primary wing backs are going to be available again, hopefully. So that is one thing. From a striking perspective, if you go out and brought in a big signing, then what more can Keith Moore do than he's done already?
Absolutely.
He can't do much more than he's done already.
But it'd be nice to take some pressure off him, wouldn't it? It'd be nice, because at the moment there's been a lot of pressure on his shoulders, because it's Kiefer and another 10. It's been until recently.
It has, but we're talking about a level here now. We're talking about a level here now where if we're going to go out and make a splash, I'm talking here about a 15, 20 million pound sort of signing. If you're spending that kind of money, that's not somebody that's going to come in to be a rotation player. That's somebody you're going to bring in to be a starter.
Straight in. Yeah, absolutely.
So, when we signed Ollie Palmer, that was a piece of the jigsaw we needed.
Yep.
When we signed Sam Smith and Jay Rodriguez, those were pieces that we needed.
Absolutely.
At this moment in time, although I'm not saying our squad and our team is perfect, because it's not, but I don't think there's a fundamental area where you could say, if you go and spend 10 million quid and bring in a player in that position, that's going to get you over the line. I don't think that to me, I don't think there's a glaring position in our team like that. So it'll be fascinating. It'll be fascinating to see what they do.
But I have looked at my calendar around the playoff finals at Wembley time just to check that I'm not busy, and I bet you've done the same.
I don't actually. I hope I'm free. Playoffs, man.
Yeah, no, that would be horrendous, wouldn't it? But But anyway. Bravo Wrexham, bravo Parky.
Yeah,
what a great Christmas and New Year present for us.
Credit where it's due.
Thoroughly enjoyed our time, not just the results, but also all the naysayers who hate us so much. It's just great to just smile and say, well, what can I say?
Do you know what though, as well, in these last 4 games, all the shit we've had all season about being the worst team that people have played, and losing to the worst team they've ever seen, and people can't say that anymore either. So they can say what they want about the Disney and Hollywood and the money and all that jazz. We know the truth, and we know the reality is, but nobody can level that bullshit anymore, certainly in these last few games, about being the worst team they've ever seen or ever played, because we've actually been bloody brilliant in big chunks of these last 4 games.
So half an hour after the Wrexham Derby game finished, Wrexham Women kicked off versus Cardiff City Women at the Cardiff International Sports Park, or whatever it's called. 3 changes from the cup win over Pennebont. Liz Craven back in goal for Chloe Ankers, Maz Mahmood for Rosie Hughes, and Katie Barker for Abby Idenden. Jamie, I think the biggest shock for me was not seeing Rosie starting. Was that kind of the same for you?
I heard you talking about this on the Affair pod. There's a few things that I heard you talking about on that, which I wanted to talk to you about. And I know this was one of them. Yes and no. I mean, I was surprised on the basis of the form she's been in and what she's done recently. But then a part of me that wasn't hugely surprised, because I think Jenny Sugarman probably feels that this is her best 11. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I think she probably thinks this is her best 11, and her best option up front is Katie Barker, even though she's not necessarily been in the best of form in the last few games. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, but then not too surprised, if that kind of makes any sense at all.
Well, a thoroughly disappointing game for me. Doesn't matter how many times I go and watch Wrexham play another Welsh side. That's 3 for 3 that we've lost, which is incredibly disappointing. 16 minutes, Bellingham long cross to Cook, which kept behind the Wrexham left, which they kept doing constantly, but getting behind the left back and the right back on a constant basis. Cook put the ball into the box. Aaron Lovett stuck a foot out and unfortunately put it past a wrong-footed Craven in goal. Cardiff hit the crossbar a number of times in the first half. In fact, Cardiff should have been out of sight in the first half. Should have been 3 or 4-0 quite easily. It's just they kept it in the crossbar. Again, doing the same thing. Bellingham, long range, hitting it high, hoping to get over Craven's arms. And to be honest, if she'd have been 6 inches lower on a couple of those shots, they would have gone in. Just really unfortunate from that point of view. Wrexham were just passive. Cardiff were much more aggressive, much more physical. Wrexham had some chances, but none of them really forced Chamberlain in Cardiff's goal into any difficult saves. Second half, 58 minutes, Faye Knox was fouled on the Wrexham left. Snape with a long ball into the box from a free kick, bounced in front of Chamberlain in goal, which nobody went to, and then Faye Knox popped it in from the header to beat the keeper to level the game. Wrexham were more physical in the second half, had some really decent chances, and the game could have gone either way. Wrexham should have put some of their chances away. They could have won this, to be honest, but 94th minute, long ball to Fiona Barry, who is lethal, always plays off the back of the defence, off the shoulder defence. Wrexham's defensive high line at that point, 94 minutes, was suicidal because they were doing a Notts County style. Let's how far up the field we can put our defensive line. Barry took the ball over the top, just ran on. Faye Knox tried to get a tackle in, couldn't get the tackle in, and she slides it into the net with literally almost the last kick of the game. Cardiff win 2-1. As I said in the other pod, this is not a disaster. Jamie correctly predicted it, which I'm sure you'll talk about a bit later on. The one main thing, I mean, again, I'll take your take on it in a second, Jamie. The one main thing for me is the one thing I was disappointed with was game management. We were 1-1 up. We were 1-1. We got back into the game. We were having chances. Cardiff were starting to come back into the game with kind of 5 minutes left to go. Wrexham, though, were trying to go for the win. They just kept pumping it back up and giving it back to Cardiff instead of keeping the ball, keeping it out of Cardiff's reach. You were inviting, you were gambling basically on keeping them out. And they had showed in the first half that they could keep putting the ball behind our defence on a regular basis. And that's exactly what happened for the second goal. It was just really disappointing from that point of view. I don't know how much of this you saw or whatever, but kind of what are your general thoughts on this one?
So I wanted to ask you again, just from picking up on the affair pod, and I think Matt did try to get you to clarify what you were saying, but I just wanted to ask you and talk to you about it a bit more. So you were saying on that you didn't think Cardiff were that good. You just explain what you were talking about when you were saying that.
Cardiff are mentality monsters. Okay, yeah. They basically turn up with the image of we are absolutely unbeatable.
Yeah,
and you're not going to beat us. We're going to bully you, and score much more goals, and you are not going to be able to keep us out. Yeah. And they do that from the off mentally, and they do that from the start. They bully. They have players like Bellingham. They have players like Cook. They have these players who are physically strong. Okay. So they are mentality monsters. The game they played against Swansea in the Cup, they beat them 4-0. When they played Swansea in the league, Swansea, yes, took the lead, but then Cardiff came back and rolled over them. They are mentality monsters, okay? So that's what I've seen. That's what I'm used to, them scoring and then basically just putting the hammer down and scoring 2 or 3 more and getting the game out of reach. And they didn't do that in this game. Yes, they scored, but they scored from a bit of fortune. Basically, Erin trying to defend and unfortunately popped it into her own goal. They didn't score from open play.
Do you not think though? Going back to you when you were doing your summary before, I think you said something along the lines of they should have been out of sight.
Yeah, they should have been out of sight. Absolutely, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, right? Because they hit the crossbar a number of times, and they probably should have been 4-0 in the first half, but they weren't that good. They could make those chances happen.
Because to me, I don't watch the women's games anywhere near as much as you do. And obviously the only other time I've seen Cardiff play really was when we played them earlier in the season. I thought in that first half, if I'm being brutally honest, I thought in that first half it was night and day. I thought they were miles better than us. Miles better than us. I think, I think interestingly, I think, our last few games have been a little bit of a struggle. We've not seen the same sort of levels that we'd seen in the beginning part of the season. I think since the 2 ABBA games, we played ABBA twice. Who did we play after that? Penabont, which we won, but again we made hard work of it. And then in this game, we were nowhere near the level that we know we're capable of, because we've seen it in the season. I mean, genuinely, when we got to like half time, I had to have a look online if Maz Mahmood was playing, because I genuinely, he wasn't in the game, and that's not a criticism of her. That's a highlight of the fact of how much we struggled. Barker wasn't in the game. I thought they absolutely schooled us in that first half, if I'm being honest. I think, was it Billingham there? Little blonde girl?
Number 18, midfielder.
She was like a female Lionel Messi, man. She was just absolutely ruled the roost. You're absolutely spot on. She and Cardiff as a team absolutely tried to exploit what we've talked about on this pod about that weakness in the goalkeeping in the women's game. There's that weakness in the goalkeeping, and it sounds like we're being critical, but it's not. It's just a fact. I think Del openly talks about it on your affair pod, which is it is just unfortunately it's a kind of a physical anomaly in the game, which is this little void in the top of the goal, and there was clearly something they were targeting, because there were several shots and several attempts, like you say, they hit the bar, they hit the post. We were very, very lucky, I thought, to be only 1-0 down at half time. I thought they absolutely schooled us in that first half. Second half, we did improve. To be fair, I thought we did improve. The conditions, you have to give a little nod to the conditions.
Yep.
Same for both teams, but I don't. It wasn't. It must be in the back of your mind. You could see that pitch was far from optimal, and it must play in the back of your mind. Being scared of slipping or whatever.
I think Nat Clark's done her shoulder, because she felt quite heavy, and I think she's hurt her shoulder. Maz had problems with. I mean, a lot of players went down with cramp.
Yeah,
I would imagine because it was like playing on concrete. It was a very hard surface, to say the least.
But after the second half, we were definitely much better than we'd been in the first half. We're much more competitive, and got the equaliser, which was good that we got back in the game. And then, to be honest, we did create chances. We did have chances, which if you're being critical, you probably say, well, given the quality we've got, we should have probably taken one of those chances. But I agree with you 100% about game management. We kind of got to a point in that game, and certainly when you hit the 90-minute mark, you're very much in that territory where you have to be sensible. And I think we said it last week. I think I said it and you agreed with me, which was the thing from this game was don't lose it. A win would be amazing, draw would be fine, just don't lose it. And when you've managed to play poorly and really poorly in the first half and get away with going in at half time only 1-0 down, and then get it back in the second half to bring it back on level terms, I think if we'd have come away from there and got away from there with a draw, it would have been a fantastic result.
No, that would have been absolutely fine. And this is what's frustrating for me, because I know Wrexham can play better.
Yeah.
And they didn't. First half, they didn't. And I'm saying that Cardiff weren't that good, because that first half, they should have been out in sight, but they weren't. Yeah. In fact, the only goal they scored was because of a defensive error by us, not because one of their players had smashed one in from 30 yards. At half time, they were already kind of like, we're only 1-0 up. And you could see that Wrexham came out more confident. A Wrexham number of games ago would have come and put those chances away, and we would have gone 2-1 up, or maybe even 3-1 up, and then I think Cardiff would have been in trouble. But
I kind of get what you're saying, but I also would caveat that with as much as I get what you're saying about they're not that good because they were only 1 up at half time. I think there's a big chunk of luck in there from our perspective, because we were saved. I think from their point of view, you'd be if you were in the Cardiff camp, you'd be really critical if you were saying, you should have scored. They've hit the woodwork 3 or 4 times in that first half. But I think the most disappointing thing for us is, like you said at the beginning, is that game management at the end of the game. We've got back into the game. We've got it on level terms. We can come away from there from a very difficult evening with a draw, which would have been a fantastic result, and then just basically hit the big red self-destruct button, because at 95 minutes to play the lines as high as we were was criminal. And I know Del, she is the best person to comment on it and give you an insight into the goalkeeping. It was poor goalkeeping as well. I mean, the positioning was terrible. It's basically made it unbelievably easy for Barry to score. I'm not quite sure how she ended up. How she ended up with a positioning as bad as it was, because I think Dal maybe talked about it on your other pod, was the kind of thing with the goalkeeper is what they do when they go to the goal mouth is they kind of make a little line on the 6-yard line in line with the post, so that you've got a visual representation of where your posts are, and you kind of use that as a guide. So I don't know what had happened, but yeah, she completely got the positioning wrong, which she'll know, and probably no one more critical of it than herself.
As I say, at the end of the game, Liz was furious. She threw her gloves down and she was not happy. But again, I understand what you're saying, but she was exposed to that one-on-one because
absolutely,
defense set themselves up so flat and gambled on. Yeah, they're not going to play the ball over the top of us, and that's exactly what happened. You can't do that. With Barry, we've seen her do it. She did it in the World Cup final last year. I mean, if there's one thing, I felt Cardiff had done their homework. I mean, marked the key players out of the game, Barker, Mahmood, out of the game.
Absolutely, because they were barely in the game. And you're right, 100%. They'd absolutely done their homework. But I think going back to like what you said at the start, what you said on the other pod, this is not the end of the world. It's disappointing. Disappointing result, but it's not the end of the world. And you know what? I think we've got to remember that this is not a bad experience for them.
No.
Cardiff have been there, done it, and bought the t-shirt. They are multiple winners of this league. We've never done it before. We're in dizzy heights of somewhere we've never been before. So this is all a learning curve, and I'm sure the players and I'm sure everyone involved will have learned something from that. And the bottom line is it's not the end of the world. It's disappointing and it's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. And I think let's see what happens now. I think the important thing now is a reaction. Like we've talked about on the men's side, I wouldn't necessarily put this in the same vein as when the men played Cardiff and when the men played Swansea. It's a different setup completely. But it's a similar scenario. We've had a bit of a knockback. We've had a blow here. If you think back earlier in the season where, the one defeat we've had against TNS, we needed a reaction. We got a reaction. So that's what we need now is we need to see a reaction from this result, both performance and result, because I think that is one thing that I think Jenny will definitely be aware of, is that the performance levels haven't been as good in the last few games as we'd seen. Well, since that TNS loss, after that TNS loss, we had a spell there where we were unbelievable at times, and she'll very much want to get back to that. So, yeah, disappointing, but not the end of the world.
If anybody does have any doubts in Cardiff's strength in depth, they played Trevelyan midweek in the Welsh Cup game that was postponed. They made 8 changes, including the goalkeeper. Barry scored 3 and had 3 assists because she started, and they beat Trevelyan 14-0. So, they've got a huge amount of players at their disposal of all of superb levels. So, that's what we're competing against. Now, Need More Chips podcast. It's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Wrexham have confirmed that forward Jake Bickerstaff has joined Cheltenham Town on a permanent transfer. Bickerstaff, 24, who came through the club's academy, signed professional terms in the summer of 2020 and has gone on to make 28 appearances for Wrexham, scoring 6 times. After spending time out on loan last season with National League side Altrincham, the forward joined Sky Bet League 2 side Cheltenham Town for the 25-26 campaign. The 24-year-old recently scored in the Robins Boxing Day victory over Shrewsbury Town. Nice one. And he now joins Steve Cottrell's side on a permanent basis as they look to continue their rise up the table. Jamie, again, Same as we said about Mullin, there is a time for players and there's a time for players to move on. Jake is a great player, but was never going to get a chance in the side, to be honest, even though Parky seemed to like him. But, good luck to him. I think it's great that he's moved to a League Two side, and hopefully he'll be very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's never, he always gave his all in a Wrexham shirt, didn't he? He had a few flashes. Was it Swindon? Was it 5 when we drew 5-5 with Swindon? I think it was. He had a couple of moments in a Wrexham shirt, but yeah, I think, again, a different level to the whole Mullin thing. But I think he's never going to get anywhere near the Wrexham team at this stage. And the fact that he's managed to get himself a permanent deal to, like you say, an EFL club is good for him, and all the very best to him. Hopefully, he thrives there.
Wrexham AFC Academy Under-18s have been drawn away to Southend United in the fourth round of the FA Youth Cup, with the game to be played at Roots Hall. The fixture will take place on Thursday, January 22nd, with kick-off scheduled for 7:45pm. Fans can be seated in the Solo Press North Bank stand. Tickets priced at £5 for adults, £3 for concessions, and only £1 for under-16s. Craig Knight's side began their FA Youth Cup campaign in style, beating Port Vale 5-1 at the Stoke Kairas in the third round of the tournament last month, with Sammy Chesworth, Jack Jones, Wes Graham and Cian Nolan all finding the back of the net. The victory meant that the young Red Dragons booked their place in the fourth round for the first time since 1983, where they took Sheffield Wednesday to a replay. Great this for Wrexham Academy. So Southend United, very, very winnable tie. Could start to really get close to that possible final if we're very lucky.
Yeah, like you say, it's a winnable tie, isn't it? And that's, when you're playing cup games, it's what you want, isn't it? You want the best opportunity you can to progress. I suppose the caveat to that is you have to obviously be careful not to get complacent or too overconfident or whatever. But I'm sure with likes of Craig Knight involved and stuff, he won't allow that to happen. So hopefully they can get through.
Well, they've had a long break over Christmas and New Year, because the good thing about under 19s is they don't let them play over Christmas and New Year, which you think is great. So they've got their first match back for a number of weeks against Shrewsbury Town this Saturday coming up. Wrexham AFC have confirmed works will immediately begin after the match against Leicester City on Monday, January 20th, of rail seating in the Tech End, something they've promised since September. The rail seating, which will be in place throughout the top tier, is planned to be fully installed before our next home match on Saturday, 7th of February. The project has been developed in consultation with the club's safety advisory group, which includes representatives from the local authority, emergency services and other key stakeholders. It's important to note that at least until the end of the 25-26 season, the club's stadium licence will continue to be for an all-seater stadium. This means supporters will still be expected to remain seated for the majority of the match, with standing only anticipated at key moments such as goal celebrations and significant match incidents. All installation work and match day operation will be delivered in line with governing bodies to ensure the highest standards of spectators' safety are met. So the start of a standing stadium, obviously the new Cup will have safe standing as well. Can you see this being developed throughout all four stands eventually, Jim?
Probably. It seems to be the done thing. I mean, it's laughable, isn't it? The whole thing about people will still be expected to sit down. It's one of them. I've never, I must admit, I've never been in a stand stadium where they've got this rail seating. I don't know if you have.
Yes. Yeah. A number of the away games this season have had rail seating in, to be honest. And
I think
it was Stoke. Was it Stoke or was it? No, Ipswich. It was Ipswich. It was very tight. For somebody as fat as me with fat legs, it was very tight.
I mean, that Blackburn game we went to on New Year's Day, we stood up all the way through that because it's domino effect, isn't it? The people in front of us stood up, so we stood up. And I quite enjoyed it, to be honest with you. A bit of a throwback to the days gone by. But then I am getting old now. So
I miss the standing cup sometimes. I mean, it was nice when we did Dover last game of the National League season, and that was in a fully standing, tight packed cup, and it was. But
I think obviously the big benefit of this railing thing, isn't it, is that you can stand up. You've got something to lean on, haven't you? It's safe. So I mean, that probably I don't know. It seems to be the done thing now, isn't it? It seems to be something that's popular. I don't know what kind of an effect it will have on the racecourse long term. You know, will people like it or not? I don't know. Who knows? But it obviously seems to be the done thing now. So.
Wrexham Women have drawn Carmarthen Town ladies in the quarterfinals of the Bute Energy Welsh Cup. Carmarthen Town are currently third in the Gennaro Adran South. They knocked out Pontypridd United in the previous round 2-1. The game will be played in Carmarthen on Sunday the 8th of February. Other games in that round, Swansea City versus Llandudno or Wrexham Foresters, who have still got to play their last 16 game. Cardiff City, who beat Trevelyan during the week, will play TNS, and Cumbrae Celtic will play Briton Ferry Llansawell. Jamie, so it's again another lower league side. Quite a trip though for the team, because it's an hour and a half from me to go to West Wales. I imagine that's going to be easy, a 4.5 hour trip one way for them easily. But you know, positive at this stage in the quarterfinals to get a team like Carmarthen Town.
What division are these like in?
Adran South, so the one below the Premier.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a favourable draw, isn't it? We've avoided any of the bigger. Sorry, that sounds really rude, but you know what I mean. Any of the bigger teams, like you say, the only downside is the location. It is a track. I mean, it was interesting that that Cardiff game, I didn't know, but again, Matt mentioned it on your affair pod that the team travelled down on the morning, didn't they? They did on the day, which was interesting, because you'd think for that's a reasonable trek from Wrexham.
It was down to the weather, because they were concerned that if they'd have stayed down and it had been cancelled, then it's quite a big expense for a game that was cancelled. So I think they took a gamble that everything would be all right, I believe. Because normally they do stay down. They do stay down overnight.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what they do with this one, because like I say, the travelling, is something you've got to bear in mind, isn't it? It's a crazy thing to say, but it's tiring, isn't it, when you travel? It's like when you go on holiday on a plane and stuff. It's tiring, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, I think a decent draw for us, would have been better if it was at home. But it's a decent draw for us. So it's a winnable game, isn't it? And that's all they would want from it. So yeah, I'm sure they'll give it their all to try and get through.
Cymru Women will tour the country with 3 matches in the first 6 months of 2026 as part of the qualifying campaign to reach the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup. Parker Scarlets in Llanelli will host Cymru's opening home qualifier in March, where Rhian Wilkinson's side will face Montenegro on Saturday the 7th of March, kick-off 4:30 p.m. GMT. Cymru last played at Llanelli in July 2024, beating Kosovo 2-0 in a UEFA Women's Euro 25 qualifier, when Jess Fishlock broke the Cymru goal-scoring record in front of more than 4,000 fans. Wilkinson and the players will hope that Cymru's return will see the Red Wall turn out in their numbers once again in West Wales to support the side. Wilkinson's side will then head north to Wrexham to face Albania at the Stoke Kairas on Tuesday, 14th of April, kick-off 7:15 p.m. GMT, having previously played there in February last year in a 1-1 draw with Sweden in front of a record crowd for a home fixture outside of Cardiff of more than 6,000 in attendance. The League B campaign will end at the Cardiff City Stadium against Wrexham, the group's second seeds, on Tuesday the 9th of June, kick-off to be confirmed, and ticketing information for all these matches will be announced in due course. Jamie, great that the women are touring the country rather than planting themselves all in Cardiff, so everybody, all parts of the nation, can get to go to a women's game.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good experience all around, isn't it? It'd be good for the players to play in front of different fans at different stadiums on different pitches and stuff. And like you say, it's a good opportunity for the fans to, that aren't based in South Wales to get involved as well. Hopefully, the men might follow suit.
Time to pop on the fryer and hope that smell is just the toilets. It's time for the chip shop Jamie's prepared to hand over more sage footy predictions wrapped up in copies of the Chester Chronicle. So
Come on.
People don't notice how rubbish they are. Yes.
Let's have a look at this. Come on.
Down, yes. So let's look at the predictions over Christmas where they were moaning about, how can we predict so far ahead? Because it's almost impossible. And then Jamie manages to get 2 bullseyes, not just 1, but 2. Daz also gets a bullseye. I get a bullseye. But the 2 bullseyes by Jamie plus, the other results means now he's 10 points ahead of Daz and 12 points ahead of me at the top of the table. He's really putting the afterburners on there, to say the least.
8 bullseyes this season. 8 bullseyes, man. Come on.
Very good. That's very, very good. Very, very good. Yes, and I'm sure if there was a prize for bullseyes, you get it. But it isn't a prize for bullseyes. It's a prize for who is top of the league at the end of the season.
Regardless of what happens, I just know you're gonna find some way of shithousing me. There'll be rule 76B/3P5 or something that
I can't wait to see your face when Daz pips you by 1 because he's predicted more at the end of the season. I think you go ballistic. I think.
That is the only problem now with being this far ahead. That is the only problem now. It would make it even more.
I love it if we beat them. I love it.
Well, you're definitely not going to beat me, are you?
No, I'm not. No chance. Not a chance in hell. No. That's fine. I just don't want to come last. I've now got to try. I'm only 2 points behind Daz, so that's my target now, is get Daz. Just get Daz. I forgot about you because you're gone. If I can get Daz and drop him into 3rd, I don't come last.
Well, you crack on with your relegation battle and I'll focus on the Champions League.
Thanks very much. All right. Right. So first is the Friday tonight. It's Nottingham Forest. Hopefully is indeed the word, weather pending, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Very excited about this one. It's the first, obviously, it's FA Cup time to dream of going to Wembley and lifting silverware in the greatest domestic cup competition in the world. Now, normally Wrexham would have battled through the opening rounds to get to the higher ranking teams in round 3 later in the competition. But as we are now in the Championship, they don't have to enter the competition until round 3. So the Championship and Premiership teams join at that point. So we don't have to join until round 3. Perfect. Now, Wrexham have a reputation of knocking out teams that should, on paper, beat us easily. But as Brian Clough has said, and once said, unfortunately, football isn't played on paper, it's played on grass. And it's to one of Brian Clough's old teams we face as we welcome Nottingham Forest to Stoke Kairas on Friday, 9th of January, kick-off 7:30 p.m. GMT. Nottingham Forest are one of the really big clubs in English football. Founded in 1864, only a year later than Wrexham. They have primarily been in Tiers 1 and 2 for the whole of their 160-year history. They have won just about every domestic title that can be won. So Division 1 once, Championship 3 times, FA Cup twice, League Cup 4 times, FA Charity Shield once, European Cup twice, and European Super Cup once. This century has been they've been mainly in the Championship before getting promoted to the Premier League in 2022. This season, the Premier League, they've struggled a little bit, but they're currently 17th in the league with 21 points, 7 points from the relegation zone. Now, considering how old both clubs are, Wrexham and Nottingham Forest have only actually met each other 3 times, and all of them have been cup ties. They last met in the FA Cup almost exactly 44 years ago at this stage, 1982, where Wrexham won 3-1. The last time we actually met was in the League Cup in October 1993, where Wrexham drew 3-3 in the first leg, because it used to be 2 legs at this point in the League Cup then. But in the second leg at the racecourse, we lost 3-1 and therefore went out of the competition. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, can forget the league for a bit, forget the glory, forget everything else. Finally get a Premier League side to the Stoke Kairas under the lights Friday night. How much are you looking forward to this game?
I am looking forward to it, but I'm also gutted because I'm going to miss, well, unless the storm has an impact on my meeting that I've got tomorrow. I'm going to probably miss the first half at least, which is really frustrating. So I'm really gutted about that.
We'll be 3-0 up by then, so don't worry about it.
Yes, I am looking forward to the game. I mean, like you say, it's FA Cup, even though I think for a lot of Premier League teams, managers and players, the shine has gone off the FA Cup a little bit, but for us kind of purists and traditionalists, it'll always be the cup competition in this country, won't it? We've had some unbelievably memorable moments in this competition. But equally, so have lots of other teams. There's so many standout moments over the years from this competition. It's a real leveler, isn't it? Under the lights, I think it will be interesting to see. I think the difficulty with this is that what teams are going to be picked is the thing. I think it's safe to say that Nottingham Forest are going to make quite a lot of changes. They played, it's Thursday as we're recording this. They played, is it last night? Yeah, last night. Yeah, they played against West Ham, won, in the end, won. I watched that game, but I don't think many, if any of those players will be playing. I'll be surprised if they are. I'd love Nico to play just because of the connection.
He's from Kevin Maurer, is he originally? I think.
Yeah, but again, from Nottingham Forest's perspective, they're going to be looking at it, or my assumption is they're going to be looking at it from the point of view that they're still in Europe, which they've not been in Europe for a long time. They're still in Europe. They're obviously they are in a relegation battle, even though they're giving themselves a little bit of a buffer now. I think that the FA Cup will be quite low down their pecking order. So my expectation is they will make wholesale changes. The interesting thing is, what will Parky do? Because if you think back to that Coventry game from a few years ago when we were still in the National League, and one of the other pods was talking about, I forget who it was now, it might be the Fearless lads. We kind of all saw the lineup for that game. We were like, huh? But then look what happened. So he throws us the odd curveball. My gut feeling is I think he will make a few changes, maybe 4 or 5 changes, but I don't think they'll be, I don't expect it to be Andy Cannon, Mullin. It will still be within the squad that we're used to seeing over the last few games. But I think like Smith, I think will probably carry on. Maybe Scar comes in again for Max. But I think there will be a few changes. But that being said, my kind of gut feeling is similar to what I've heard a lot of other Wrexham fans say, which is working on the basis that Forest are going to make wholesale changes. This is a winnable game. It's a winnable game. Who knows? It's difficult, isn't it? It's really difficult because we don't know what Forest are going to do. Sean Dyche might surprise us, and he might think, I want to have a real go at this, and he might put out 6 or 7 of his main starting team. And you look at some of their plays, even though they're in a relegation battle. They've got that Anderson in midfield who is rumoured to be like £80 million worth of a player. I've watched him a couple of times and he is really good. Morgan Gibbs-White, they paid £40 million for. You got Nico Williams, who's arguably the best left wing back in the Premier League at the minute. They've got that Jesus or Jesus or whatever his name is up front. They've got unbelievable.
They've got a lot of players. They've got a lot. Their roster is stacked with players.
So if he plays, if he surprises and plays a handful of his first team, it could be a very different game to maybe what we're expecting. But I think the real big challenge for us with this is, we're from our recollection of FA Cup is always being the underdog, and we are very much the underdog in this game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, we're the underdog. But we've always been the big underdog. You think back to Arsenal, the famous Arsenal one, West Ham, Middlesbrough, Ipswich,
Birmingham.
Yeah. We've always been the big underdog. Whereas with this one, there's only 12 places between us in the pyramid. Yeah. This. I know we're talking about 2 different leagues, but so the challenge for us is trying to create that underdog mentality, but equally being confident, because we have got quality in our own right. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Add the factor, obviously, that we're at home. That's obviously going to be a big one because that's that can be advantageous, and the fact that, as you say, you don't know what you don't know what you can expect. And how many times have we seen, like the Coventry game, suddenly we played out of our skin. I mean, I was at the Coventry game, and yes, at the end we were hanging on a bit, and it was close. But for that first 35 minutes, we literally played them off the park, and we were a National League side at that point, and they were in the Championship. And that might happen again. Same as when we played Sheffield United. Lots of people saying, "Oh, Sheffield United, they were at the top of the Championship at that point. We were League Two." And we brought them to the racecourse, and we nearly beat them.
The big thing in both of those examples, though, is like I was saying a minute ago, we were heavily the underdogs in both of those examples.
Correct, yeah.
And that's the one difference this time is, yes, we are absolutely the underdog. And if you were talking about Forest's first prime select 11 versus any, our select 11, we would be huge underdogs.
Oh, we'd be,
yeah. But obviously, the expectation is, and this is from listening and reading what Forest fans themselves have said, their expectation as well is that he'll heavily rotate. So on that basis, it becomes a bit more of a leveler, doesn't it?
And there's a huge amount of respect, I think, listening to Parky's pre-match press conference today between him and Sean Dyche, and I feel they're two very similar types of manager. They're two very old school managers, aren't they? There's no pretension there. There's no Chris Davises or Nathan, what's his name's from Charlton. This is two old war horses who absolutely have a huge amount of respect for each other. And that's good. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Sean Dyche on the touchline because I would imagine he's quite fun.
Well, you'll hear him
when he's angry.
He sounds like Pat Butcher with COVID.
So yes, I just like to see an entertaining evening. I'm hoping that this doesn't. I mean, my one fear, and I don't know, you might back me up on this. My one fear is that this doesn't derail our league form.
Yeah,
because if we get pasted, if we get beat 4-0. Is there a worry then that our next game is against, I think, Norwich City at home, and will we carry that in, or will it be like, well, it's done? Don't worry about it.
There's always that. There's always that risk, I suppose. I don't think that's what would happen, but there's always that risk, I suppose. I mean, the big thing with this is, I think the players will want to test themselves. Every player in our team, in our squad, whoever he picks, are all going to have aspirations of playing in the Premier League, so they'll want to test themselves as well. I agree. I mean, obviously, I'm going to give you my prediction in a minute, and it's one way. But my only slight concern is I've got this little niggle in the back of my mind: is everyone I've heard and everything I've read from a Wrexham perspective, everyone seems to think we're going to win.
And
that makes me a little bit nervous.
Totally. It's absolutely. Some have treated like it's a foregone conclusion because Nottingham Forest is, their form is bad. Our form is really, really good. We are quite close in positions. Like you say, we're only kind of 12 or 13 places between us. But the cup doesn't do that. The cup's got nothing to do with that. The cup could be anything, could go either way. So, time for the salt vinegar and sauce course. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Nottingham Forest?
Okay, so I'm going to answer it in a very specific way, and you'll know where I'm coming from when I say this.
Okay.
So, what I hope will happen is both teams will score.
Yep.
Nathan Broadhead will get either a goal and or an assist.
Yep.
And the result will be a Wrexham win. So as long as those first three things happen, I'll be very happy.
Okay.
But score-wise...
Now, don't forget, before you say anything, you can say draw with penalties and then say who the penalties are. That is an option because there's no extra time, there's no replays. Just go straight to penalties.
Yeah, I mean, I have, so I have thought about that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Wrexham win.
Ooh. Well, Daz may not be here in person, but he is here in spirit, usually whiskey. So, Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Nottingham Forest?
Okay, so my first prediction is going to be the Wrexham game against Nottingham Forest. You've got many factors to consider here, not least two different divisions, but they're not that far apart when you consider where Nottingham Forest is at the bottom of one division and then Wrexham mid to, doing well in the other. So, it's only a handful of places, but form, Wrexham have got the form book compared to Forest. Forest did get a good needed result against West Ham the other night, and ridiculous game, but very entertaining to watch. So what do? Do you go for the form team, or do you go for the team that should have the quality players? I can't decide whether it's a 2-1 or a 3-1. Do I stick with the usual 2-1s, or I think this is what I'm committed to. Unfortunately, guys, I'm going to go for a 3-1 to Forest. I think the quality will shine through. Sorry, guys.
Is he in the Blue Oyster Bar? What was with all the stars behind him?
I put loads of effects behind him because I thought he'd be funny.
Oh, right, okay. I was going to say, I was expecting Hightower to pop out the side then.
So he says 3-1 to Nottingham Forest. I think it's going to be 1-1. And I think it's going to be one of those nights where Wrexham win on penalties. I think Arthur is going to pull out some incredible saves.
Lewis O'Brien with the winner.
And Lewis O'Brien with the winner. And I think it's going to be a draw. And I'm going to say a 1-1 draw, because I don't think 2-2. I don't think we can get 2 goals. So 1-1 draw, but I think Wrexham will win on penalties. What a night that'll be. Incredible. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer tonight, it's Briton Ferry Llansawell Women. So, Sunday the 11th of January, 2 p.m. GMT kickoff at The Rock. Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women in the semi-finals of the Gennaro Adran Trophy. Briton Ferry beat Cumbrae Celtic FC Women 3-2 in round 1 and Barrytown United Women 2-0 in the quarterfinals to get here. Wrexham obviously beat Llandudno Ladies 9-0 in round 1 and drew 2-2 with Aberystwyth Town Women going through on penalties. Wrexham have won the last 4 head-to-heads with Briton Ferry, and the winner of this would meet either TNS or Cardiff City in the final on Sunday the 22nd of February at Newport. Why is it in Newport? Stupid. And the chips are done. So, semi-final, Jamie. One more step towards some silverware. As I say, Wrexham have beaten Briton Ferry the last 4 times. First game of the season, we came from 2 goals down to beat them 5-2. We went out at this stage last season at home, where Swansea beat us 3-2. Can we go that one step further and hope that TNS can do us a favour and knock Cardiff City out and meet TNS in the... And so it'd be hilarious, because Wrexham and TNS from the north will have to traipse all the way down to Newport to go and play the final. But anyway, that's another matter. Do you think Wrexham can do it against...
Yeah, I think that, this is the perfect... after the disappointment of the Cardiff game, this is the perfect kind of... this is the perfect motivator, I think, isn't it, as the next game? I think you're back at home, semi-final of a cup, chance to get to a final. It's a real opportunity here to lay down a bit of a marker and say, look, okay, we got beat last week. It was a bit of a blip, but, we are still here. We mean business. I think they'll be right up for it. I think they'll I'm sure they'll obviously winning is a priority, but I'm sure they'll want to put in a performance as well. Again, just I think to try and give refill their own kind of confidence cup. Just on the basis of the fact that that will have hurt that Cardiff defeat would have stung the manner and the defeat itself. So yeah, I think they'll be well up for this. Obviously, certainly not a foregone conclusion. Even though, like you say, we've beaten them the last 4 times, not a foregone conclusion. First game of the season, like you say, we were 2-0 down at that. We were all kind of scratching our heads, but quality and the class came through in the end. So Yeah, I'm not expecting an easy game, but I think all the other ingredients, add up to what hopefully will be a convincing win.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce score. Live by video link, getting blown off in a train station toilet. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women?
And so for the women's game, this is going to be a good one. I think there's been quite an entertaining tournament so far, the Cup. So I think you're probably going to have an easier tie than against the mighty Aberystwyth. So although we took you to extra time last time, or beyond normal time, I don't think you'll have that problem this time with Briton Ferry. You've had some really decent results previously. Lots of good teams. Cardiff doing well in this. TNS doing well. So I think you have to go with the form book. You have to go favour the favourites, and I do think Wrexham will win this, especially if it's at home, if my memory serves me right. So if that's the case, I am going to go for a 4-0 win. I think you'll be fine. I think you'll also keep a clean sheet.
And there was a bing bong just at the end there, so obviously going to call his name back into the clap clinic. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women?
So I've got a 4 as well, but I'm going to give them a goal, so I'm going to say a 4-1 Wrexham win.
Excellent. And I'm predicting Wrexham Women 3, Briton Ferry Llansawell Women 2. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think Wrexham have had the jitters recently, and I'm hoping they can score 3 goals, because at the moment they're not putting their chances away, and I'm hoping that will change. I'm hoping Katie Barker will get back into the groove, and I hope Maz will get back into the groove, and I think those goals will go in. It's what we can keep out, I think, to be honest, against Briton Ferry, and it would be quite a blow if we lost at this stage to this team. My worry is that then that would start to transfer into the league as well. So we need a definitive win. I mean, I'd love 4-1, to be honest. I think that would be better, but I'll say 3-2. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be looking back at both these games in next week's pod. So there we go, finished for another week. We'll be back next week to look back at the FA Cup game versus Nottingham Forest and Wrexham Women's semi-final game versus Briton Ferry, and look forward to 2 home games for the men in the league versus Norwich City and Leicester City. And Wrexham Women will be away at Barrytown United Women in the Gennaro Adrian Premier as phase 1 of the league comes to an end. Please let us know by your usual channels on social media, or comment on the YouTube or on Spotify, or whichever one you listen to. On the YouTube.
What's all this hype shit that I people keep talking about on YouTube?
Apparently,
all the other pods is telling people to hype their videos.
I'm not interested in that. I don't want anybody to hype us, to be honest.
What is it?
Apparently, you get a certain number of points, and if you hit the hype button, those points go, and it lifts your listing to a higher level, so it becomes more noticeable. Apparently. You
raise me up.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Michael Bolton. Daz, of course, has been beamed in from his holiday retreat so far, but of course he wanted to say goodbye. So, thanks, Daz.
Okay then, guys. Then hope this week was a good one. Listening in, obviously from afar. I'm hoping to be there for next week, but we'll see how it goes. But missing you madly. So I hope we can get sorted and get the threesome, the mighty 3 amigos, back again as soon as we can. But in the meantime, missing everybody else at home. Looking at the socials, I know I'm missed, which is very kind. And I suppose I should send some regards to the cat as well. But I'll see you all soon, hopefully. All right, guys, take care.
I am categorically not having a threesome.
I'm not having I was about to say, I'm not having a threesome with him.
That Blue Oyster Bar trip has gone to his head.
I'll say so. Hopefully we'll see him back next week. But great that he's managed to dial in, and I hope him and the family are well. Obviously, one person who is here, having to put up with me, is my little brother, and it was great. Actually, we had quite a laugh, didn't we? To be fair, on New Year's Day at the
yeah, we did. It was fun.
And I'd love to get you on some more away days. Hopefully, in the future, we can do that, which would be great. But again, Jamie, thank you very much for your time, and congratulations on being 10 points ahead in the Chip Shop League. Where are you going to put the trophy? Have you thought yet?
I'm going to put it in front of my crotch.
Yeah. Well, you normally put lots of other things in front of your crotch. I don't see why the trophy shouldn't be any different. Anyway, thank you very much, Jamie.
Pleasure.
And of course, as we always say, I'm so looking forward to it. Please let the game happen today.
Yeah, fuck off, Snow.
And let's hope I can make it up, because it's not going to be that it gets cancelled. It's whether I can make it from South Wales to North Wales. So fingers crossed that I don't
Flop
get
bread.
Anyway, flop bread. Yeah, I'll just get a skidoo.
Go on, get those tennis rackets strapped to your feet and set off. Set off now.
I look like the Nuke of the North. Anyway,
big
come on,
thing let out for the day.
Come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 4-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back promotions. Oh, can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.